Alright, let me get a new 30-minute game going. This is technically my second game today, but I'm traveling tomorrow and I won't be able to record a video, so I'm doing things a little bit out of order. So we'll get e5, c6, a caro-kann on the board. I just really like the caro-kann. That's what I've been studying for the past couple of months, really getting into the details. e4, c6, expecting to see d4, d5. So we're both contesting the center. Black getting a somewhat more modest portion of the center. Oh boy. Queen to h5. So the moves like this, we've got oodles of time. We got half an hour. I like to take a little breather and just make sure I understand what's going on, what this threatens, what our opponent is trying to accomplish. It could be Scholar's Mate. They get their bishop out here, and then queen takes f7 is checkmate, so that would be no good. So our developing move, d5, prevents that. It's sort of a weird version of the hillbilly attack with the queen on h5, a little bit out of order. Another option is knight to f6, which is a little bit unusual in the caro-kann. I feel like often I like to play knight to e7 instead. So I think I'm just going to go with d5 and see what happens. I'm very wary of this queen on h5. Our opponent may be playing very aggressively. They may have something cooked up that I'm not aware of. So I just want to play this carefully. So we've got sort of an exchange, caro-kann exchange on the board. We have this hole on c6 that I would like to fill with our knight by developing that to c6. But it remains to be seen what exactly is going to happen. One thing, okay, yep, so they play bishop to b5, hitting our king, so let's just get our knight out to block that. It's a normal move that we play, and if they take, we get to take with our b-pawn, sort of at the same time eliminating this weakness of the b-pawn, opening up an opportunity for our light squared bishop, which is, well, with the queen on h5, it couldn't go to the square that it wanted to go to. Um, hmm. So we could develop our light square bishop and then play e6. With the queen in front of the king like this, I do like the idea of getting castled very quickly, so just playing e6 immediately feels like an option as well. But just, I'm worried about what our opponent's going to cook up, so I think I might just get castled as quickly as possible. So that's going to be e6, bishop out probably to d6, knight out to e7, and then get castled. Because I don't like all this queen movement. I'm very wary, and I think with the caro-kann, I just want to play a solid defensive game. So spent a lot of time thinking about our first 5 moves. I suspect the next couple of moves might come a little bit faster. Yeah, so they're getting their knight out. I think they'll threaten something somehow, some way. I don't quite see what that is yet, but let's get castled. If we can, where might their knight come to? Nowhere really that wouldn't lose it. I think d4 would be the only option, hitting our pinned knight. So they get castled. Sort of a... Okay, so this threat of like the queen in front of the king is no longer present, but we can still proceed deliberately. We'll get castled, get our king tucked away into safety. And we'll start looking at some ways to push our opponent off of our side of the board. d4, normal developing move, opens up the dark squared bishop. To what end, it's difficult to say. They might come out to g5 to sort of pin our knight to our queen. So actually, I mean, before castling, a couple options that come to mind are h6, preventing the bishop from coming out quite that far, and then a6, forcing the question of like, hey, what do you want to do with your light squared bishop to our opponent? But I actually don't mind the idea of encouraging bishop out to g5, because that will allow us to play queen to b6. And if we can find some way to sever this connection between their queen and their bishop, we might win the bishop. So let's get castled. I'm expecting bishop to g5. Our opponent is playing aggressively. By castling, we've released the pin on our knight. So if they do come out and if they do take, we'll have the option of taking either with our bishop or with our knight. Both of which I think are fine at this point. But let's keep our eyes peeled, because this queen on e2 is sort of an unusual addition to our standard caro-kann. Your opponent hasn't committed any enormous blunders yet. Okay. Bishop up to d3. Maybe threatening takes on h7, sacrificing the bishop sort of in exchange for, I'd say, a fairly strong attack on our king's side, and they've got their queen that can come up into the mix after knight to g5. So let's think about how to meet this practically. We could move our knight to f5, getting in the way of the bishop, but if they take, we ruin our nice pawn structure. So that would look like knight to f5, bishop takes f5, pawn takes f5 would be our only option, which I don't love. We could proceed with our plan and play queen to b6, sort of attacking both of these pawns, sort of pinning isn't quite the right word, but sort of preventing this c1 bishop, their dark squared bishop, from moving out into the open. But I don't know. I don't know if they have. They might have enough firepower to play bishop takes h7. So what if we just play h6 instead, curbing the development of their dark squared bishop so they can't come out to g5, preventing bishop takes h7, sort of removing a critical piece of our defensive infrastructure, this h-file pawn. And it is a little bit of a waiting move to see just what our opponent comes up with. See if they find a way to continue playing as aggressively as they have been. Knight out to c3. I think this is a strong move early in the caro-kann. I'm reading a book right now about defeating the caro-kann that calls for e4, d4, e5, so the advanced variation, then knight out to c3 in the first few moves of the game, which I think is tactically very powerful. I think I would recommend that, but they're doing it now, which is a little strange. Let's go ahead and get our queen out to b6, threatening this pawn. I do think with the knight on c3, it's a little bit more challenging to take this pawn, if that's what we want to do. They might play knight to a4, both like threatening our queen and defending this pawn. In which case, yeah, I don't know. I guess in which case we could still play knight takes d4, which is sort of the point of queen to b6. We're adding pressure to this d4 pawn along with our knight. Knight to f5 is another one of those moves that hits that pawn. But if they do play knight to a4, what if we just take? We're threatening their queen. Let's sort of suss that out. Okay, so they play. Oh, that's interesting. They play knight to b5. We can't take it because it's defended by their pawn. It, in a way, guards the b2 pawn, and it adds support to their d4 pawn. Very cool. I like this move for our opponent. I think that's very clever. So what can we do now to add additional pressure to this pawn? We could play Knight to f5, to which our opponent has the annoying bishop takes f5, so I don't like that. So no candidate moves here. I'm going to highlight some pieces and just sort of take them left to right and see if we have any good candidate moves to increase pressure on this d4 pawn. So the rook could maybe come out to d8, but we have this pawn on d5 in the way, so I don't see any options there. Knight could come out to f5, but as we've discussed, that runs into bishop takes f5, which I don't like. Oh, this is good. I'm glad we're doing this. Our bishop is hanging. Doesn't have any defenders, and so they are threatening knight takes d6, and then we don't have any sort of recourse for that. So I'm going to keep that highlighted. Let's keep an eye on that. Knight takes d4, I don't think is an option because they have too many defenders on that square. Our light squared bishop is hemmed in. Our queen might need to come back to d8 to defend our dark squared bishop. And then, are they threatening anything for real? I don't think so. I think we just drop our queen back to protect our bishop. I guess another option is like bishop to c7, maybe preparing this battery. Sort of like that too. Let's try it. Let's move our bishop back to c. Well, no, actually, that sort of pins in the queen. And I don't like the idea, like, if they do find a way to develop a threat against our queen, I don't love that. So well, how could they do that? I don't see a way that they could do that. They've got these on light squares. Their bishop maybe comes out, I don't know, somewhere. But yeah, I don't see a way they could do it. So I'm going to go ahead and move the bishop to c7. If they take, now we can take back with our queen. And this opens up the opportunity of this battery if our opponent, this battery of like queen to d6, and then queen takes h2 checkmate, supported by the bishop here on c7. I do like this idea. I think it's probably appropriate for lower level play. I don't think, I think anybody at a higher level is going to see this very obvious battery of the queen and bishop and play, g3 or something like that, or leave this knight here to protect the h2 square. So what next? Maybe we play a6 to force the question to our opponent, like, hey, what do you want to do with this knight? They play knight to d2, developing their bishop, maybe having some idea of coming out here and then like trading. That doesn't do anything because then our queen just comes back. I don't know what they're thinking with that move other than just like to connect the rooks, which I think is a very good idea. They could have come out to e3, adding additional support to this pawn. Not that they need it right now, but I think that would have been a good idea. But let's play a6 and pose the question to white. Like, hey, what are you going to do with this knight? It's time to make a decision. They may drop back. They just decide to trade. Okay, that's a-okay. We'll take back with our queen. And the game will proceed. So we've traded our dark squared bishop for a knight of theirs. Honestly, maybe not the best trade. I think with our pawns like largely on light squares, our dark squared bishop is very powerful, and obviously our light squared bishop is still pinned in. So we might need to make some decisions about pushing up pawns to sort of strengthen our dark squares and allow our light square bishop to move more freely. They play rook a to e1, aligning the rook and the queen, sort of staring down this e6 pawn. This is playing f6 is less appealing now because this pawn is very weak. I don't think they're going to sacrifice their queen to get to it, but it's something we should be aware of. What else could we do? We could play b5 to... Gosh, I don't know. I'd love to put our light squared bishop out on a6. Um, Normally, the point of the caro-kann is to get your light squared bishop developed outside of the pawn chain. In some variations, like I think the main line of the fantasy variation, you do close up the center immediately. So it's like c6, d5, and then e6 immediately. So you do need to find like other accommodations for your light squared bishop. I am not as familiar with those variations, so I'm a little stuck here. I wonder if we push these pawns forward and then we can get our bishop out to like a6. Maybe, well, no, trading light square bishops doesn't work because they've got their queen to back up their bishop. We could put our queen out and then threaten this pawn. I don't think that does much. It's a tough position. We play our knight like out here. And then if they want to trade like that, we could do something like this, but then that pawn is hanging. Or that I guess that pawn is defended by the c8 bishop. It's not a bad idea. We could just push e5. I don't think that's a common pawn break in the caro, but it's certainly an option. This pawn just has one defender right now. So we could get our queen back onto b6, staring down both of these pawns, and then take it. And then maybe like drop back if we need to. Do we have options to drop back? So if we end up in this situation, queen to b6, they play, h3 or something. Knight takes d4, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, and then they threaten us with something like knight to e3. Do we have somewhere to move the queen? This is covered. This would be safe. This would be, or this would not be safe with, no, they could play like b3 or something. But we have at least one retreating square for a queen, and then that might allow us to get back to like d6. Okay, let's go for that. Queen back to b6. Shuffling our queen around a little bit, I think that was a necessary diversion. And then they might play something as simple as like bishop to c3, now that I'm seeing this position, protecting both of these pawns. In which case, we'll figure something else out. This e5 pawn break, yeah, that's a good move. This e5 pawn break is looking more and more appealing as a way just to add pressure to this pawn, open up our light squared bishop. Are there any downsides to that move? We could trade. Oh, that's a big downside, is this queen rook battery here on the e file. Jeez. Maybe we should start pushing our a pawn just to get something to happen. I'm feeling a little bit stuck in this position. Yeah, they've got all their pieces developed. We've got plenty of time, but I'm not seeing any strong ideas that we could come up with. Like knight out to here feels a little bit awkward. Could we do anything? Could we protect the square with another knight somehow? I mean, that would be like knight up to here, and that wouldn't work. Queen back to c7. Now that the bishop is on the side of the board, does that do anything for us? I don't think so. Gosh. We could do like queen here and then push our b pawn up. Light squared bishop takes, and then that's a disaster. Would be cautious for keeping our queen side well defended. Geez, yeah, I think queen just back to c7. It's not a bad square for the queen, but I'm feeling a little bit cramped, and I'm waiting for our opponent to make a move, make some sort of threat. I do have this very solid position, so I don't think I need to do anything immediately. But I just want to be cautious and wary, because I think they are playing this very well. Maybe we do play pawn to b5. Okay, yeah, they move their bishop back. Let's play pawn to b5. Creating, just getting like a little bit more room for us. Maybe the bishop to b7 does not look amazing to me. But at least we can start to have some ideas of like moving our pieces around. Maybe we move a knight back to a7 to protect this b5 pawn if we want to advance the a5 pawn. Okay, they play h3. That's a great, just like waiting move. Non-committal, doesn't sort of force you to do anything. We could play, oh, that's interesting. We could play b4. That's protected by the knight. Um, that opens up our a6 pawn, which is defended by our light square bishop and our rook. So I don't think they could trade there profitably. So back to this. And that prevents the bishop coming out to c3. So then we could maybe get our queen out to b6 again, and then now we're threatening this pawn again. Let's go for it. They might play a6 or c3, I think would be fairly strong. c3 is a good caro-kann move. If you don't have your bishop, or if you don't have your knight on c3. If they play c3, I guess we could push, and then they take, which isn't amazing, but then I guess they've still added a defender to the d4 pawn. Okay, so they play a6. So I think we might have an opportunity here to get our queen out. This could be a pawn sacrifice, but then we can capture, 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 and then I think we've created a weakness in their position. So let's go for it. Queen to b6. Let's live it up. Let's play for a win. Oh, how very exciting. They could add a defender, but hopefully they'll just take here. I guess if they do add a defender, we take this pawn, they take back, and then I don't know if we've accomplished anything necessarily, but I guess we've maybe freed up a... No, we haven't freed up a spot for our knight because, like, take back. If they do this, we could push, and then that still doesn't accomplish anything. That's no good. Okay. They take with their dark squared bishop. All right. So let's see what we can do here. If we take with our knight, our other knight is hanging. We could trade here. They take with their pawn, we take back with the queen, and then we're threatening b7. We like, maybe, I guess if we like take, they take back, we win the pawn back because we're down a pawn right now. If we take here, we're threatening their queen, so they have to take back. We have to take back because otherwise we'd be down a minor piece, and then they take our knight. So that doesn't work out. That doesn't work out unless there's something crazy we can do with our queen on d4, which I don't see anything. Their king is so tucked away behind defenders that I don't think we can do anything. So I think it's just knight takes the bishop on b4 is the correct move here. They take back, we get the pawn back, and then they probably play something like... I guess c3 would be strong, because then we can't take that b7 pawn, because it's protected by the queen, since they've moved that c pawn out of the way. So let's assume that's what happens. It seems the most likely course of action to me. They take, we take back, they play c3, and then where do we go? Let me just make sure that we have a place to go. We could nestle into this b3 corner. I don't know why we would want to do that necessarily. That seems like it's inviting danger of like, oh, I guess their bishop wouldn't come out because it's all covered. Yeah, so we have at least one like safe space to go to. And now, once again, we're hitting their d4 pawn, so maybe we can come out and threaten it in that way. Well, no, they're probably going to play c3, so we're likely to see c3. Our queen needs to go somewhere else, maybe just back to b6. and then they'll need to make some attacking decisions. Hmm. Yep, C3. I'm gonna just look again at the available options. Guess takes. Those are all available options. Some of these are obviously bad. So anything in the line of the bishop is no good. Take here, we lose the queen. Take here, we lose the queen. Take here, we lose the queen. It's an option. Loses the queen. We stay in place. We lose the queen. That loses the queen. This b8 seems unnecessarily passive and gets us in the way. This gets in the way of the light squared bishop. I don't love that. These two, I think, sort of fall. These two on the A file sort of fall into like rook comes over to A1. So let's exclude those as well. I actually don't mind queen back to D6, just in case they do want to launch an attack on the king side. Let's do that, and then they don't have any, like, they traded away their dark squared bishop, and then they don't have any, I don't see any ways to, like, hit us. So let's go back to D6. Yep. This pawn is still well defended. We'll need to keep an eye on that. Honestly, I'm feeling like we play F6 and sort of try to push up that way. We're a little crunched on time. We got about 13 minutes left. We just need to be aware of any attacks. I think B4 seems nice for our opponent. Open up some more space on their queen side. Sort of cramp us a little bit more, especially since the B and C files are wide open. What do we want to do? We still want to develop our light squared bishop. Okay, their rook comes over to A6. They still don't have enough attackers. They have 1, 2, 3 attackers, and we have 1, 2, 3 defenders. The same 3 pieces. So I don't think they can do anything there, so I'm not worried about that. We could just play bishop to B7, keeping defense of this pawn. And connecting the rooks. Let's get our bishop off the back rank. Make a move that's a little bit sensitive of the time constraint that we're in. I don't think this is damaging anything, and it's developing a piece. So how bad can it be, right? We could get our knight out into the mix. That's not... C6 isn't any good, because then we don't have any good squares to go to, I don't think. Loses the knight, loses the knight, loses the knight. Super duper passive, gets in the way of the rooks. So if we have a different way to defend knight out to f6, that could be good. Otherwise, since they've moved their rook away from the queen, I think we could safely play f6 here, and then push up to e5. Maybe this blunders the knight to bishop takes. That's the danger with playing f6, especially since we played h6. So we've created this very inviting hole in our defenses on g6. So we're gonna want to be aware of that. They play g3, maybe seeing some tactical idea that I'm not aware of. What else could we do? I mean, we could double our rooks in the A file. I don't know what that would accomplish necessarily, and then just like push that pawn up the board. Because they don't seem to be planning any attacks over here. Their rook or knight could come out to here now. Maybe here? Honestly, knight to e5 would be a killer move for our opponents. Is there something we can do to prevent that? You know, like our knight out, that doesn't do it. We like take. God, that would be a monster move. Having that knight there would be absolutely brutal. So we could go ahead with our f6 pawn break. Aware that it's creating weakness in our position. Push up. Take here, take here. Gosh. We are running out of time. What if we double the rooks in the A file? We could leave our defensive fortification in place for now. This is a strong pawn chain for our opponent too. Let's double up on the A file. I don't see why not. And then just like push up that way. We are leaving this weakness on F7 by by moving the rook on F8. We're losing a defender here. So that's something to be aware of. But I don't think that's bad enough to cause us to like abandon this idea. We can always play F6 if we really need to like move around defenses over there. That's something I'm very cautious of playing. But I think like the two classic pawn breaks in the caro-kann are F7 to F6 and then C6 to C5. We've been deprived of the C5 pawn break because I actually don't remember. Shucks, yeah. Knight out to E5. I think that's a strong move. Let's double check like what are they threatening real quick. Loses the knight. Loses the knight. Loses the knight. Loses the knight. Blocked. That's where they came from. Loses the knight. Okay, so I think it's annoying, so we have to play around it, but I don't think we need to do anything about it right now. We could play knight. Oh no, that doesn't do it. Because yeah, if we played knight to c6, we do have the opportunity for a knight trade, but then this pawn loses a defender, which we don't want to do. So I guess we could play that. We just need to add a defender to the pawn first by playing rook f to a8. And then we could potentially we can relieve this bishop of its duty of guarding the a6 pawn. So let's do that. Let's move forward with our plan, and then we can play knight to c6 to try to dislodge this knight on e5, which is going to be super duper annoying. I don't want to deal with that right now. I guess another way we could have defended the pawn is by just pushing it up to a5, uh, which sort of removes the queen and the bishop as defenders. So that would have been another option, but I do like having the rooks doubled. I think that's just nice. We are in a little bit of danger of like back rank stuff since their bishop is staring down the escape hedge that we've created on h7. So something to be aware of there. But we shall see. Any other dangers? I don't think so. I think our opponent played so aggressively in the opening, getting their queen out, to such an advanced square right off the bat. I'm surprised they're not, pushing a little bit harder against our defenses. Here we go. Here's something. So queen to g4, threatening, nothing really. Maybe if they come out to h5, they'd be threatening like queen takes f7, protected by the knight. So that is a danger. But I think what we can do is like threaten to dislodge the knight. And then the queen and the bishop, I don't think are well enough coordinated that they can do anything right now. So let's move forward with that plan. And I just want to be very cautious. Our queen and our king are close, but they're on opposite colored squares, so they can't be forked by the knight. I think if they want to do something aggressive, they'll have to reposition their queen. I think queen to h5 might have been a little bit more serious of a threat there. In which case, I don't know what we would have done. Maybe, oh gosh. Yeah, I should look at that after the game. I think that could have been, we would have had to do a pawn move. No, pawn move wouldn't work. Oh, yeah, pawn move. So queen to h5, pawn to g6, attacking the queen and preventing the queen from getting to that vulnerable f7 square. Okay. So we did have sort of an escape hatch there, yeah, if we really needed it. Knight takes f7 anyways. Okay, do they have something that I'm not aware of? So we take back. They have queen to g6, check. We can escape to... Gotta get away from escape to e7. Um, and then I don't think they can chase us any further without... I guess they have queen to g7 check. There we go. We move back to d8. They might have queen to g8 check, and then we move back up to c7. And if they check us again, then we have like knight to e7 to guard the check. Okay. So I think we take this. Now I'm expecting to see an attack. They might have figured something else out that I'm not aware of. Queen to h5. I think we follow sort of the same plan of defense. Queen to g6 doesn't work for us. That just sort of gets us into the same spot. With queen takes g6, the queen lands on the same square, and like we've lost a pawn. We'll probably lose the pawn regardless, but we're up a piece. So I feel pretty good about that. I think we can defend this successfully, and then we'll be up a piece. So as long as we play carefully with the 8 minutes we have left remaining, we'll be able to escape from this hazard. Okay, so they play rook to e6, mustering some additional resources. They hit us here. So this would be like rook takes, queen takes, queen takes, king takes, and then they're in shambles. We could get our king back to safety. I think that's probably still a good idea. Though moving our king to safety would involve abandoning this g7 pawn, which I think we're likely to lose anyways. And I want to be cautious about giving up too much material. We've got 7 minutes to figure this out. I think we still move our king to e7. Probably queen takes, king back, queen takes again. I like this. It's not a great position to be in. What if we just push our pawn? If they want to sacrifice another piece, they can. I think I'm honestly happy with that. I think we have enough defensive resources here on the king side of the board. It is looking dangerous, but I don't see how they can muster this attack. And I know this has bitten me before in the past too, saying like, oh, I don't know how they can do it, and then, losing to checkmate once they accomplish it. Different move orders don't do it, I don't think. What if, now that they've added their rook, maybe I misjudged something? Do they have something now like queen to g6, we move back. Rook takes? It doesn't help that they have an additional defender. Because we take back with the queen. They'd have to get the bishop. They need to get the bishop more involved in the attack, I think. And I don't see how they could do that. They could come up and then push this to h4 and then come over this way, and that would be effective. So if I see those moves, we can develop a plan at that time. Okay. They play pawn to b4. I think they could have played that earlier, and I think it would have been really strong. But here I think we just take it. And then start trading pieces, because we're a knight up. Let's see. So if we can just trade everything away, like the less powerful their attack gets, and the more likely we are to emerge victorious. So I think the more we can trade, the better. So if they take here, I think that's a win for us. Maybe like they take here, we take back. They, I don't know, drop their bishop back to try to do that attack we described earlier, and I can move my bishop up to threaten them. Or honestly, if they drop their bishop back, we could just take here. Okay. They rook to b1. I think we can take here as well, and then they're not like this piece is defended by a rook, so they don't have any way to attack it. Needing to make sort of faster decisions as we start to run low on time. We have 6 minutes left. I'm a little nervous, just because our king is very exposed. Their king is very safe. Um, but I haven't seen how our opponent will generate this attack. And the more pieces that we trade off, the more they will run out of steam. The better position we'll be in to convert this endgame. Hopefully, we can do that fairly quickly with just 6 minutes on the clock. But we're up a pawn and a piece, so it should be very doable. I guess the danger here is if I offer this trade, say like we trade here, take back with the rook, they can come down to b7, threatening our king that way, and I think that would be very dangerous. That once they get both rooks involved in the attack, then we're in some serious danger. Bishop to h7, maybe this is the way that they get their bishop involved in the fight. Now, queen to g6, back, queen takes, up. I'm not, sorry, I'm just not seeing it. We can't take here. That's guarded by the queen. What if we move our knight over sort of proactively as a defensive resource? It's not really doing anything over here anymore. So what if we move it over, and then if they want to come, they can't come there. So yeah, I think that's a great defensive move, sort of preempting queen to g6 check. They can't take because we can just take back with our king. This is feeling good, but I'm very conscious of the time pressure. We have about 5 minutes left. And then what threats can we generate pretty quickly here? Can we offer trades? Can we push pieces out? Our light squared bishop is not doing anything at all. Can we offer a queen trade? I don't see a way. Bishop comes back out. Okay, let's offer that bishop trade that we talked about earlier. We could also drop our bishop back and then push e5. No, then they take and it's supported by the rook. That's awful. Okay. Yeah, let's offer this bishop trade. I just want to trade at this point in the game. And I want to do it as quickly as possible. Where could they move? Yeah, that's a good move. They don't want to trade, that makes sense. We could move our rook out and offer a trade that way. So rook comes out, takes. We're removing firepower from the queen side of the board. Let's do it. I guess the danger then is rook back to a1. We can't, and then our knight or our bishop is pinned. Gosh. Bishop to c8 we ruled out. Knight to f5 now, I think, is potentially dangerous, but we can get our king out of danger. Yeah, let's do it. They can't advance their pawn. Just give me the trades. I think I would rather have a bishop than a knight in the endgame, if we make it to the endgame. We don't have another way to attack this pawn, because I think, like, if we can take this pawn, then that removes a lot of our woes. But the queen is guarding it, so honestly, maybe, like, just push h5, sacrifice the pawn, allow us to take d5. Or, no, that's a check. They're hitting the king. Push, takes, out of the way. Oh, here we go. Rook takes e6. What are they cooking up? I'm excited to see. That's a big defensive piece that's out of the way. I think we could take here. If their bishop comes out here, they can't pin our queen to our king. So I think we take here. That's a sacrifice. Not a trade as much. I think our opponent just might run out of gas. Oh, here we go. Bishop takes knight. There we go. That's okay. So that's how they did it. Okay. Scare away the defender? No, that doesn't work. Oh man, they might have got me here. I have 3 minutes to figure this out. Oh me, oh my. I'm not in check, so I have a lot of options. We could... can we generate a check? No, I don't think so. We can generate a threat against their queen with... No, when they take our queen, it's going to be check. Maybe we get a rook involved. So we get 2 pieces for the queen. Yeah, so we get a rook involved. They take, we take back. And then we have another defensive piece involved in the situation. I think that's what we're going to have to do. Gosh. They got me good. They got me good. So I should take here. We've got 2.5 minutes left. I think I'll be down material, but up in terms of like the number of pieces. So they'll have a queen and a rook, and I'll have 2 rooks and a bishop. And then we have bishop to d3 to sort of threaten their rook. Yeah, we got to move fast. So it's assuming, like, they got to take this, right? Bishop takes queen, rook takes bishop. What do they do next? They can't... Oh, check. I think this might be a huge gift. So we play pawn to g6. If they take with either piece, we pick it up. We play queen takes g6. And we're forking their queen and their bishop. They come down here, we get the bishop. They come down here, do we have... No, we don't have checkmate, because they have a million escape squares. We got Swiss cheese over here. Amazing. Yeah, they should have, I think, chased their king a little bit earlier. Gotten their queen down on this g6 square, taking our g7 pawn. Now it is just a fabulous defensive resource. I think we got very lucky. I think queen to h5 was probably a blunder. And I'm excited to see this in the post-game analysis. Okay, they take our queen. We take back with the rook, just to activate it a little bit. I don't want our king more in the open than it should be. They need to move their queen somewhere else. And then, yeah, now we're sort of in this end game. But we have the initiative. Well, no, they're probably going to move somewhere with check. Yeah, okay. I think if we move here, yeah, let's move here. I don't see a way that they can generate another check. Of course they can generate another check. We'll have to be careful that we don't get pinned or lose this rook now that it's like hanging. Okay, so they just take our pawn. That's great. What can we do? What can we do? We have 2 minutes to figure this out. Offer a rook trade. Take, so that doesn't do anything. If they take here, we take here. That loses the bishop, and then it's a king and a rook against a king and a queen. Oh, that's bad. Okay, well, we're gonna lose that. Okay, let's see. They will probably find this fork on c7. I think that's a pretty easy move to spot. Yep, we get out of the way. Let's activate our king in as much as that's possible. They'll take our bishop. What can we do? What can we do? Move our king sort of up this way. I don't know if that accomplishes anything. My only hope now is, like, can we get our king? Can we deliver checkmate with the king and a rook? This isn't happening with the pawns. Yeah, probably queen up here. Oh boy, they're probably just going to back us into this corner. Oh, checkmate. What? How do they find checkmate? Backed up. These pawns are defending these squares. The queen's getting all of these squares. Yeah, great checkmate. Oh man, our opponent pulled it off. A very good attack by our opponent. Let's see. I think I've already done a game review today, but we can sort of look through this with the analysis engine on and see if we miss anything. Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, the engine doesn't like queen to h5. Let's sort of rip through this real quick. It's already been a long day. Developing. Slight edge for black, but nothing crazy. Where's the decisive failure? Here's one. Bishop back to c7 was a mistake. I think this move I just need to write off. Okay. So now a slight edge for white now, having traded really our good bishop for their knight. It was just sort of not doing much of anything. Pushing. Queen back to b6. They take, we take back. So we get their dark square bishop, and then now we have, like, I think we've maybe reduced the edge a little bit, but it's still, yeah, good advantage for white. Knight to e5, I think, is a great move. What is this? Okay, yeah, so they attack, sacrificing their knight. But I think they do get a decent advantage out of it. What's this? Queen to g6? Oh, that's a move for them. Yeah, black has the advantage here. I think we were playing pretty strong. I think I just lost this in time pressure. Okay, so what's the move here? Queen to f6. Or queen to d6. Or queen to c6. So queen just somewhere along the 6th rank. I think here offering the queen trade is a good idea. Getting out of the way of rook to e1. I didn't spot that. I'll have to rewatch this video and understand what I missed here. Yeah, because that's the decisive blunder, is bringing in the rook to support rather than... I don't know why I didn't move the queen. I'm not sure what sort of mental block is happening there. They take, we take back. Yeah, and then white has the advantage again after they have a strong attack. Yeah, okay. Made one. Okay, cool. So I think I defended pretty well, and then this decisive mistake of the game. Rook to e8 here rather than any queen move, because I'm not pinned. I think I had been talking about a pin earlier, and like if the bishop had come down this way, pinning the queen to the king, that would have been gnarly. But queen to f6, not queen to g6. Queen to g6 just loses the queen with no compensation. Yeah, so queen to f6 I think would have been better here. f6, d6, c6, just get the queen out of the way. Yeah, that's all it takes is one move. Spend about a minute on that. All right. So maybe a time management thing, maybe a psychological pressure thing. Whatever it is, I'll watch this video again and I'll figure it out next time. All right.